This week at Lebanon Road, we're talking about the fruit of the Spirit, kindness. Sorry, this bad joke, but that means we're back to normal.
Yeah, totally. Adam needs to work on kindness, apparently.
That's right. Well, before we get to the topic of the day, we want to let you know that this is the last day of our gospel meeting here at Lebanon Road. We're recording this on September the 25th, and JD, I think our meeting has been going very, very well with Dan Jenkins. The homecoming and then the meeting has gone very well.
Yeah, it's been a great meeting. He's a great preacher. It's a very, I don't know, I don't want to make it sound bad, but it's very fun to listen to him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I want to use the word entertaining, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, his messages are so biblical, but just the way he presents them, it makes it very interesting to listen to. Maybe you think about the message in the way you normally wouldn't think of a message of that style. So I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it's going really, really well. And of course, since we're recording this on Wednesday, we're meeting tonight. We want to make sure that you are with us for that meeting. We'll start at 7 o'clock tonight, and we're looking forward to not the meeting ending, but for the meeting continuing through its last service. So we're looking forward to the meeting being over. Would not be the right way of saying it, but it's gone very, very well. And for those of you who are viewing this on Wednesday and have been at as many of the services as you can, we appreciate that very much. And with that sort of announcement and transition out of the way, let's get to our topic. We're going back to our series, our thoughts on the fruit of the Spirit. We skipped last week to kind of preview the gospel meeting, but JD, this week we're talking about kindness, but that's not the way every translation puts it.
Right. If you've got your old King James like I do here before me, then you will read gentleness. But if you're looking at other versions, such as American Standard or what Adam's got in front of him, the English Standard, you're going to read the word kindness. And that's probably where the heart of the matter is there. Adding to these fruits of the Spirit, kindness. And in much the same way that we began every single one of these ideas, we realized that kindness is something that you have to cultivate. It's something that you have to work on. You don't just wake up one day and be kind. The New Testament has a lot to say about kindness. Paul, as a matter of fact, has a lot to say about kindness. If you were to flip back to Romans and you looked at Romans chapter 20, he talks about being kind to your enemies.
Give that reference again. I don't think Romans has 20 chapters.
I'm sorry, 12 and verse 20.
There we go.
I forgot. Romans 12 and verse 20. You know, it's easy to be kind to people who are kind to you.
Yeah.
But what about people who are not kind and not nice? That's the real challenge, I think, for somebody who's trying to develop these fruits of the Spirit. Being kind to those people who are unkind to others and, maybe most importantly, unkind to you. But Paul says, to our enemies in Romans 12 and verse 20 that we need to feed them. If they're thirsty, we need to give them something to drink. We need to be kind to them, show them kindness. It says when we do that, we'll heap coals of fire on his or her head. And now, I've often used that as a way to get back at people who are mean to me. You know,
right.
I'm going to be extra kind to you because I know that will irritate you.
That's right.
I'm not exactly sure that's the message that Paul was trying to get across. You know, in verse 21 he says, don't overcome, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And I'm not sure that mentality is overcoming evil with good.
I think it's a common outcome, but it shouldn't be our motivation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way it should be. I'm not saying that's the way it is for JD all the time, but definitely the way it should be. And then if you went past Galatians to Ephesians, chapter 4, and you looked at verse 32, you see Paul again address the idea of kindness, which is one that pops out in my head when I think about the fruits of the Spirit. He says, you be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. And you look at that in context, like verse 31. In the midst of that, he's saying, let all bitterness and wrath, anger, clamor, evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. This teaches me that kindness is something that I do to other people regardless of what they do to me. A forgiving heart is a very challenging thing for anyone to have. but that is the birth, I guess, if you will, of kindness.
Yeah, and we've said this a couple of times as we've talked about some of these other manifestations of the fruit of the Spirit, but not just in our fast-paced world, but especially in our communication world, where it's so easy to fire off an email or a Facebook comment. It is so easy to be unkind because you're just angry at what someone said, or you just disagree with what someone said, and so I'm gonna type something that just fires them, just absolutely burns them up, and that's not a Christian. There's a way to say things you disagree with,
right,
and be kind about it. And it's very hard, as easy it is just to send a text message or type a comment on a blog or something, so quickly, to not be kind in that. But, obviously we're talking more about face-to-face communication, but as you were talking, that just kept coming to my mind about how easy it is, through Facebook and blogs and things to just be totally unkind because you're not looking somebody face-to-face.
Right. That's a great point. And people tend to be more kind in face-to-face encounters, but you can get some people will just totally blow you away on Facebook or texting or Twitter, any of those kinds of social media outlets or others. So I think maybe the encouragement for us as we think of kindness is going back to, again, what Paul said in Ephesians 4 and verse 32. Christ was kind. It began with his forgiveness. What he says exactly in Ephesians 4 is that you ought to forgive just as Christ has forgiven you. But that is also the heart of kindness. You ought to be kind because Christ has been kind to you. To think of the things that people said about Jesus and the things that people did to Jesus on earth, and
all the time.
Yeah, and how he reacted to that, even in the culmination of his work on earth. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Our perfect example of kindness in the face of enemies and in the face of hatred and anger is Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing you've been pointing out as we've gone through these previous things that we study, love and joy and peace and patience, is when you look back up at the works of the flesh, how they contrast, very obviously. And I was just looking at that list, the works of the flesh, and we could probably say that kindness contrasts a lot of them, but it's interesting that right in a row, it very clearly contrasts enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalry, dissension, divisions, and envy. All of them. It's the contrast of every one of those. It's right in a row. But like you said, those are a whole lot easier than kindness.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot easier to to stir the pot and have dissension and all those sorts of things than it is to be kind. But Christians are supposed to model kindness, and that goes with what we've said, what we say, as well as what actions that we do. You've done a good job reminding us it's not just smiling all the time; it's also forgiving and that hard stuff.
Well, I like what you said there about how it's easier to be the opposite of kindness. If you hurt me, I want to hurt you. But you'll find in life, if you display kindness in the face of the opposite of kindness, in the face of anger or hatred, it makes you feel better. It heals you on the inside. It gives you a sense of satisfaction and of completeness, so much more so than responding with the same anger or the same hatred, because those types of attitudes just destroy you from the inside like a cancer. But kindness is the cure to the cancer of anger and hatred.
That's right. That's a good point. So we hope this has helped you. And like I said, if you have not seen the previous videos of these, you can go back in the archives at LebanonRoadChurchOfChrist.org. There's an archive of the previous videos. You can go back and look at the videos that have dealt so far with the fruit of the Spirit. And we hope to continue that, Lord willing, next week. We want to remind our young adults their retreat is this weekend. We want to remind you, of course, we'll meet tonight at 7 o'clock for our Bible, not our Bible study this week. It will be our gospel meeting this week as we conclude that. And we will also want to mention very quickly before we close that this coming Sunday night will be our young men's service. They usually lead the service on months that have 5 Sundays, and since this will be one, they'll be leading that service. And I know that you'll want to come and support them, and as well as worship God, but also give them a little extra support, and that would be very much appreciated. And we look forward to being back with you again next week for our videos. Until then, this is This Week at Lebanon Road.